My name is Brian Worrell, District 4 City Councilor, and I am the Chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Ways and Means. Today is April 29, 2025. It is 10:09 a.m. This hearing is being recorded. It is also being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-TV and broadcast on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and FiOS Channel 964. The Council's budget review process will encompass a series of public hearings beginning in April and running through June. We strongly encourage residents to take a moment to engage in this process by giving testimony for the record. You can do this in several ways. 1, attend one of our hearings and give public testimony. We will take public testimony at the end of each departmental hearing and at the 2 hearings dedicated to public testimony. The full hearing schedule is on our website at boston.gov/council-budget. You can give testimony in person, here in the chamber, or virtually via Zoom. For in-person testimony, please come to the chamber and sign up on the sheet near the entrance. It will be taken at the beginning of this hearing following the panelist presentation. Individuals will be called on in the order which they signed up and will have 2 minutes to testify. For virtual testimony, you can sign up using our online form on our Council Budget Review website or by emailing the committee at ccc.wm@boston.gov or by emailing Karishma Chauhan, and that is karishma.chouhan@boston.gov. You will receive the Zoom link and your name will be added to the list. When you are called to testify, please state your name and affiliation and/or residence and limit your comments to a few minutes to ensure that all comments and concerns can be heard. The second way you can testify is email your written testimony to the committee at ccc.wm@boston.gov. And the third way is submit a 2-minute video of your testimony through the form on our website. For more information on the City Council budget process and how to testify, please visit the City Council budget website at boston.gov/council-budget. Today's hearing is on dockets number 0822 through 0830. Office of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion, also known as OEOI, and Supplier Diversity. These matters were sponsored by Mayor Michelle Wu and referred to the committee on April 9, 2025. Today I'm joined by my council colleague, Councilor Flynn, but now I'd like to turn it over to today's panelists to introduce themselves and to get into the presentation. The floor is now yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Councilor Flynn for being here. We're looking forward to this conversation as we do every year, so welcome to Season 4 of OEOI's budget. And also, thank you for gathering us here on a wonderful spring day. So looking forward to spending the whole day with you inside. Again, Shagun Idawu, the Chief of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion. I'll let my colleagues here introduce themselves, and then we'll jump right into the presentation, and the names are on the next slide. Thank you, by the way, to council staff who will be helping us move through these slides.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Councilor. Donald Wright, Deputy Chief, Economic Opportunity and Inclusion.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and Councilor Flynn. Jalivia Barrows, currently the Deputy Director of Admin, Finance, and Supply Diversity, and incoming Director of Operations.
So she's serving two different roles today, and we are joined by Alicia Porceno, who's the Director of Small Business. So on the next slide, I'd just like to level set. I know that all of you know this, but for the benefit of our constituents who are tuning in today, always like to level set to give people an understanding of what actually is included in the cabinet. And there are 4 different departments. So there's the OEOI department that we are talking about today, Tourism, Sports, and Entertainment, Supplier Diversity, which we'll also be talking about, and Consumer Affairs and Licensing. Skipping ahead to the EOI vision, I shared these again, at every single hearing that we have, just again to level set with the council, but also constituents as to what the framework is within which we do all of our policies and programming and our practices. And so when we started in January of 22, we updated our vision to be one of a resilient, equitable, sustainable, vibrant city that centers people and creates opportunities to build generational wealth. And on the next slide, we'll see that the framing with all of this work that we do continues to be equity. So whatever national conversation is happening on the principles of equity, we are undeterred and are continuing to do everything for the benefit of the people of Boston using racial equity as our guiding framework. That said, I'm going to turn it over to Donald to say a little bit about the demographics of our team who does this work every day.
Yes, thank you, Chief. The accomplishments, next slide, please. Yes, the accomplishments that we made this year have been done by a great group of public servants who serve our constituents every day. Next slide, I want to keep it there. We're proud of the fact that we remain a diverse cabinet with more than half of our staff identifying as people of color. Next slide, please. And representing a wide variety of languages, diversity, in order to better communicate with our constituents. Next slide, please. In small business, we added a member of the AAPI community to the team, enhancing our ability to engage with those small businesses. We also hired a grants and contracts manager to help process the large volume of grants we have been able to put out onto the streets as the result of the influx of ARPA dollars. Next slide, please. Supplier diversity continues to be the most diverse department in our cabinet. As noted in our preview documents, the department has been without top leadership after the departure of the director in FY24. We are happy to share that we're excited. We extended an offer a few short weeks ago that has been accepted, and the new director will begin in June and will help us fill out the rest of the team.
And we'll look forward in this presentation talking about the great work that Supply Diversity has been doing despite that particular challenge. Again, level setting with OEOI on the next slide, we'll see kind of what makes up the Office of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion. So we have 6 or 7 different divisions here. Our business strategy unit, which contains all of the work that we do in cannabis equity, global affairs, and industry engagement. We launched a couple years ago the new Office of Nightlife Economy. We have our Economic and Strategic Planning Division, our Operations Division that Jalivia will be leading, our Communications Division, our Policy Team, and then finally our Office of Small Business that we'll be talking about today. On the next slide, this is just a very brief breakdown of some of the programs. It gives a description of some of the programs within each of these teams, and I won't read all these. You all have seen this before, but again, for the benefit of our constituents. So kicking off to the work of business strategy, This is made up of several individuals. It's led by Aaliyah Forrest as the director. And this is a team that focuses on several things. One is around business attraction. The other is around how we're engaging different industries like manufacturing. And finally, this is the team that kind of led our space program. But a little bit on the business attraction piece, this team engages with a number of different companies ranging from startups and helping folks, entrepreneurs start their businesses, all the way to helping folks find manufacturing space or industrial space, to talking to international corporations and companies, helping to share the information that helps them make the best decisions to choose Boston as their next home. This was representative, as we talked in the past, with Lego, recently supporting Car Gurus. We helped EMD Serrano move from Rockland to the Seaport, and there are many other companies that we continue to interface and interact with to help them move to Boston, bring jobs, and fill up our vacancies. On that piece around vacancies, I want to take a quick moment because this team and their work also helped to move forward our focus on revitalizing the downtown core, which of course is extremely important for these budget conversations, but also for the life of the city. As this slide notes, and I won't read through all of it, but since 2021, this has been a huge focus of this administration. In fact, the mayor wasn't here just a couple of weeks before we were already engaging a multitude of stakeholders, whether it be those in public safety, education, finance, hospitality, institutional partners, residents, et cetera, to talk about how we revitalize our downtown core. And you'll remember in later 2022, Boston Consulting Group, who we had engaged earlier that year, published a report that identified 6 different categories that we should focus on, and we've made huge advancements under each of these pieces. Won't go through all of them. They're happy to forward these to you or talk more in depth, but some quick highlights in terms of what's going on with downtown. One of the things that the report noted that we should do, which we wound up doing, was securing a new owner for Faneuil Hall Marketplace, and we're continuing to engage the new owners in conversation on how to reimagine and re-enliven Faneuil Hall. You saw earlier that the mayor launched the Downtown Residential Conversion Incentive Pilot Program, which has now been expanded to include universities. Our plaza, which our Chief Irish refers to as the City Hall's backyard, we've opened it up many times for so many wonderful and diverse events that have brought thousands of people to the downtown area to support our small businesses. Canal Street, we are grateful to our Boston Celtics for continuing to make it to the playoffs, and we pedestrianize Canal Street each time to, again, support the small businesses in the area there. Our huge allies and partners at the Downtown Business Alliance continue to be innovative in the types of programming that they're doing downtown. Most recently, their Winter Active Series, if you saw little pink men at different parts of downtown, ways to kind of stimulate interest in folks coming down here. And everything that the mayor, that the administration has focused on when it comes to housing, when it comes to transportation, when it comes to the green economy, et cetera, have all been selling points to getting companies to either choose to move to Boston or to renew their leases here. It's not simply just whether or not the rent is at a good rate or other business decisions that were important prior to COVID, but now because employees are really who are driving decisions, everything we're doing to focus on making Boston a more livable city is what is helping to drive these decisions. And so you'll see in the news on a weekly basis now that so many of these companies are renewing their leases or choosing to come to Boston. Finally, won't go through all of these, but just to say that our downtown continues to see an upward trend. Visitorship continues to rise year over year. Just talk to the DBA, they'll tell you that they're continuing to see more and more people downtown supporting our businesses. And finally, while there is always the focus on vacancy rates in our office market, we tend to, Boston, we have no competition, of course. We're the best of the best, so we tend not to compare ourselves to others. But I think when we compare ourselves on the national level to cities all across the country, Boston is in relatively a good place to be able to build on and continue to welcome folks to fill up our downtown core. Moving to our global affairs piece on the previous slide before cannabis. This team is focused on engaging our partners across the world. And, I noted earlier what's going on at the national level. While they might be advancing policies that shut the nation off to global partnerships and offer closed fists, Boston remains a home for everyone, with our arms wide open to receiving the benefits of strong friendships and alliances. The mayor has actually begun our transition from sister city relationships to MOU agreements, which are stronger and more substantive. We started off when she was in Rome, signing an agreement there, and just last Friday when the Athens mayor was here for the marathon, we signed a letter of intent with him to later on sign an MOU. So there are other folks that are in the pipeline, but we'll look forward to signing these MOUs that are going to yield economic and other benefits. They're focused on increasing tourism, establishing trade, promoting cultural and knowledge exchanges, and other substantive actions that will help drive our economy forward. Cannabis equity, we maintain parity, which was this body several years ago mandated that the city achieve equity in this industry, and we continue to maintain that equity. This team is continue and deliver needed technical assistance, grants, and networking opportunities to connect folks. And in the new fiscal year, Shakia and team will launch a centralized hub to help expand its focus and support the entire industry. Finally, on my end, I've come here numerous times to talk about our commercial acquisition program. This team finally has put together the framework for this program, and we're now in fundraising mode, and we'll look forward to being able to launch this program fully, hopefully in the fall of this year. The program, I'll note and remind folks, is meant to help small business owners acquire the property that they're currently in. This is a way to stabilize rents in our neighborhoods and to help keep particularly our legacy businesses in their place for many generations to come. I'll turn it over to Donald to say a little bit about the Office of Nightlife Economy.
Thank you, Chief. We're excited about the work of our Office of Nightlife Economy, which was established in 2023. Some of the highlights of 2025, we piloted a second district, social district, on Temple Street. We distributed over 33,000 drink spiking prevention covers to 40 bars and nightclubs. We provided a Stop the Bleed training in partnership with the Brigham and Women's Hospital, as well as established an after-hours activation series here at City Hall, which featured pop-up coffee shops, a comedy night, queer friend speed dating, a pajama party, and cultural night markets. What was also really exciting was the Wake Up at the Night grants. In August of '24, we awarded $301,000 to 41 grantees to support nightlife activations. That resulted in 50 events across 13 neighborhoods. 102 artists and performers were featured, and it brought 8,165 Boston residents to these events. Turn it over to small business.
So thank you for the opportunity to talk about our work. I'm just going to provide a snapshot of some of our programs and the work that we've been doing this past fiscal year. One of the things that I would like to acknowledge and say is that we worked really hard to update our programs and streamline a lot of the processes. And as a direct result of that, we've seen an increase in projects across all of our programming. So right here is a snapshot of technical assistance. And looking at 158 completed one-on-one support. And what that really means is making sure business owners are working on their business and not in it. And this coincides with our holistic approach to small businesses and supporting small businesses. So we integrated the SPACE program, providing them with support with TA and also the Legacy Business program as well. So not only did they receive grant funding, but they received technical support to allow their business to be able to sustain. Next slide. And we're looking over here at the Restore program and the outdoor dining program. This is a photo of Mattapan, and in particular on Blue Hill Ave. We worked with the landlords here to update the facade and signages of 7 businesses, and that's just a glimpse of the Restore program that we do. We had a significant project also on Bowdoin Street that was more than 5 businesses as well, where we helped their signage and overall facade of their business. And one big major aspect of this program that we improved is we're piloting right now a online application process that will also streamline it and kind of address some of the concerns that we've had historically. Outdoor dining season starts May 1st, and we're happy to say that we are ahead of where we were last year in terms of applications and approved applications. It's right in line with the weather starting to be nice, so it's a win for us. And then, and also for our small business community. And then also May is Small Business Month. And right here, this is looking at how we're engaging the community and what we're doing to, within our neighborhoods, how we're partnering. And so this month, in May, we're really gonna celebrate our partnerships, the local small business economy, and how strong it is. So we have over 30 events working with partners to highlight Small Business Month, what we're doing as a city, what we're doing in partnership, and then just promoting events within the ecosystem. And just a highlight on the work that my department has been doing. I'm very proud of them in terms of engaging and getting out into the community. We've led over 50 events. We've participated or staffed over 60 events, and that's led to an increase, obviously, in projects, but in money going out into the community as well.
And then on the next slide, I made the slide just for you, Councilor Flynn. So, we take seriously, you and your office continuing to highlight the impact that veterans have on the economy. And so, we have stepped up our partnership with the Office of Veteran Services, who, as I've mentioned in previous hearings, have taken the lead on working directly with veteran-owned small businesses, whether it be for connecting them to opportunities or helping on contract pieces. But we are stepping up our partnership to engage with them. And with Memorial Day taking place during Small Business Month, we created specific opportunities to engage veteran-owned small businesses, whether it be dedicating our business certification hours to help folks get certified with the city. We want to make sure that veterans who own restaurants have the opportunity to learn more about the liquor licensing process and make sure that they're getting access to that. And then a specific forum just for veteran-owned small businesses to make sure that we're connecting them with all the resources that Alicia's team provides them. So we appreciate your bringing them up, and we'll look forward to partnership with your office in particular to connect veterans with these important opportunities. Moving on to the Department of Supplier Diversity, we'll kick it off to Jalivia to share more about what the team's been up to.
Thank you, Chief. And as we mentioned earlier, we have been without a director since July of last year, but that has not stopped us from accomplishing many amazing goals, as you'll see in these next couple slides. So I'll go through the programs and initiatives of our department. We have 3 policies in place: the Sheltered Market Program, which helps us to designate certain contracts for minority and women-owned businesses. We also have MBWBE utilization goals for contracts and on construction programs for construction projects. And we also have the Inclusive Quote Contract. This legislation allows city buyers to use IQCs for purchases up to $250K with MWBEs. And since its inception, we have awarded 56 IQCs. We have industry-specific capacity building, and I will touch base on the SCALE program later in the next couple of slides. But since FY21, Supplier Diversity has made nearly $2 million in grants to certified businesses, and at least 8 businesses have received Opportunity Fund grants in which they went on to bid and win city contracts. And one of our most important tools has been the buying plan, which has been a partnership with the procurement department. And this has allowed for city departments to plan for the given fiscal year. And it allows for small businesses and constituents to see upcoming bids that they can compete on. And this buying plan is now on Airtable. It's much more user-friendly, and small businesses can download the information and prepare for upcoming contracts to bid on. Next slide. One of the key functions of our department is our diverse business certification program. And our department's mission is to create opportunities for businesses of all kinds. Our certification program allows us to track our spending and ways to build our capacity to work with small, local, and women-owned businesses. In FY25, Supplier Diversity has hosted 10 community-based events to encourage certification. We've referred over 50 businesses to technical assistance programs, specifically in our small business department. And we've provided close to 100 hours of support via our weekly office hours provided by our certification team. And as mentioned before, we partnered with our procurement team to publish digital equitable contracting dashboards that allows the public and businesses to see our spending through the fiscal years in the past. And you'll see our certification numbers up to date. As of April, we have certified 951 businesses, and in FY25, we certified 173 new businesses. Of these numbers, 10% are AAPI, 42% are Black, 17% are Latino, 33% are small and local, 2% are veteran, and 58% are women. Next slide. As we mentioned before, in FY25, we launched the Supplying Capital and Leveraging Education Program, which is short for SCALE program, which we've developed to provide small minority, women-owned businesses with industry-specific technical assistance and grant funding of up to $200,000. These specific industries are construction, which have been divided into trades work and general contracting, design and architectural services, food and dining services, and snow removal and landscaping. In FY25, we had a grant administrator, BDC, Community Capital, and they've awarded 27 companies across each category. 33% are MBE, 41% are MWBE, 22 are WBE, and 63% are small local business enterprises.
On the next slide, and these are the final two that we're covering, just want to drill down on a specific way that we're helping to advance supplier diversity goals on a project. So White Stadium, of course, has been a topic of community conversation for a couple of years now, and we're grateful that we're finally moving forward on revitalizing that crown jewel of the city. But doing that is not enough to have a state-of-the-art facility for our young people, for residents to utilize on a daily basis. It's also important that with that, that asset being redeveloped, that our business owners locally have access to opportunities to help redevelop that stadium, as well as in the ongoing operations of that facility. So we partnered with our operations team, which includes our public facilities team, as well as procurement and the Boston Legacy Club, to launch a White Stadium Supplier Diversity Board, which is roughly 13 or so community members, all who have some expertise in connecting diverse companies to opportunities such as these. We've launched 4 different community stakeholder sessions. We've already had 2, which saw well over 100 contractors and other stakeholders come out who want to utilize services to get access to these opportunities. We have a web page on the White Stadium page tracking supplier diversity efforts, not just talking about the events, but also showing the numbers of where we are to date. And we're continuing to engage with folks on a day-to-day basis who are reaching out to make sure that we are connecting them to opportunities. One such business owner was Privé Parking that now has a transportation contract with the football team. And I think on the next slide, so here we see, this is just a snapshot of where we are as a city in terms of diverse contracting opportunities. So one of the commitments that was made by the mayor early on was to follow through on an ordinance that she helped pass as a city councilor, which was to quarterly report to the council and to the public where we were. We, in this fiscal year, we're finally able to follow through on that promise. And so every quarter, you will see an update to this sheet. And just briefly going over this, where we are, we're in a good place. And I think what you'll see is that we continue to make year-over-year gains in making sure that our businesses get access to contracts. Where we are today at 11.5%, we're already halfway where we were for the full fiscal year of '24 when it comes to fiscal year '25. And I'm happy to talk more about all the great work that this small but mighty team has been doing in partnership with other city departments to help keep these numbers high and growing for the foreseeable future. So with that, we are happy to take your questions.
Thank you, and thank you again for all the work that you do, and it shows not only in this, but out there in the community as well. Just want to acknowledge that Council Weber has joined us. I'll now turn it over to Councilor Flynn. Councilor, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the administration team that is here. I listened closely to all three administration officials talk, and thank you. I also represent the downtown neighborhood, proudly represent that neighborhood. I spent a considerable amount of time over the last 3 or 4 years on downtown Boston, especially public safety and quality of life issues, and was able to focus the city administration and in the residents and businesses to address public safety concerns and challenges we have in that neighborhood. We recently came together as a community under my leadership, really, to address the significant problems that's facing downtown Boston, especially public safety and quality of life issues. Acknowledge that we had and have open drug dealing and drug use, and I know the city changed its policy where now open drug use will not be tolerated, so I support that. But there's more work we have to do. In fact, there was a couple significant public safety challenges that we had over the weekend in downtown Boston, but I'm not giving up on downtown Boston. I'm not giving up on the Boston Common. I'm going to continue to advocate for public safety resources, quality of life issues, neighborhood services, recovery services. So that's a priority of mine, and I'm going to continue to lead on that. I also wanted to acknowledge Donald. I had an opportunity to work with you, I don't know, maybe 8 years, and just want to say that you've been very professional, very responsive. You do an exceptional job working for the residents of Boston. So want to acknowledge your professionalism over the years. I do want to go to a couple of issues. And Chief, you mentioned you are making progress on veterans, support for veteran business owners. How many veteran businesses have we supported through various grants? I think there's 2% that are certified, but of that, how many actually receive support?
Well, so I'll say, well, first of all, let me just even comment on your first statement. Want to thank you publicly, because public safety is another key issue for making sure that businesses decide to move to downtown versus other parts of the city. So appreciate your focus and attention on that, and partnership with the administration on advancing measures that are going to not only address the public safety concerns, but the perception, because that's really what the issue has been, the perception of downtown as a place that has made folks sometimes not want to move there. So appreciate your focus on that in partnership with the commissioner and the administration. On the piece around veteran participation, I'm glad you noted the 2% of veterans are certified, and what we're hoping is that in working with veteran services that we will show the benefits of being certified. What we have found, and this is true also for Black and brown and women businesses, a lot of folks wind up getting work with with the city but choose not to get certified because they don't see the value. So we're trying to change the narrative around certification to show that there is a benefit, and also it benefits us because we get to track it and then report back to you all that we're delivering on what we say we are. In terms of the number of veterans, I think we're happy to send that number to you. Did not come with specifically by category who got what, but we're very happy to share that with you.
Okay. As part of your outreach, does persons with disabilities also, are they also included and factored in this outreach and support from your office?
Absolutely. And two pieces here. So, there are veteran-owned businesses, but the other SBA category is service-disabled veterans as well. Again, this is something where we rely on our partnership with the Office of Veteran Services to help us with the outreach. Of course, as the experts, they know the organizations and entities that work with veterans, and so we don't want to be cavalier and think we can just do it ourselves. At the same time, there's also the work with Commissioner McCosh and her team, the Disabilities Commission, to understand the organizations to work with, because we also want to make sure that we are not forgetting disabled residents who are entrepreneurs as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'm concerned about supporting persons with disabilities. I want to make sure that they have equal access to all of our programs and ensure that we take the necessary steps to support them with any technical support they might need. Have you come across, or has your team come across, any challenges, technical issues, or issues that we need to address to support persons with disabilities so that they can access some of these programs, some of these funds?
Well, I would say, from the 50,000-foot level coming down, I think as a society we've done a terrible job of making sure that we are accessible to folks with disabilities, and so this is no less true when it comes to the city services that we provide. But that's why our strong partnerships with the Disabilities Commission and other partners across the administration are important, so that we're understanding what our blind spots are. A lot of what we offer, even Councilor Mejia on the language piece has clearly pointed out that we have more work to do because as a society that where English is dominant, we have blind spots there sometimes as well. So I appreciate you bringing that up. I will say, I'll note for the record as well, we are happy to work with your office on these issues so that we're doing more than just talking about it at the hearings, but really focus together on delivering for those residents.
Example of what partnership can look like. So all of the outdoor dining patios across Boston are ADA accessible, and we've worked with the Disabilities Commission to make sure that that is a standard across the entire program. It's been a great partnership with them on that. And then also for any businesses that might struggle with figuring out what to do, we've provided support for the architectural plans to help with that, to make sure that it's accessible as well.
Thank you. And I worked with Commissioner McCosh on a program several years ago. It was basically the closed captioning program for restaurants or bars, I guess, for persons with disabilities, that they could that there would be closed captioning at restaurants and bars, so that communication would be more effective for persons with disabilities. So I do want to acknowledge the important work Commissioner McCosh is doing. I do know they have a forum coming up over the next couple of weeks. I wonder if we're able to add some information in there on how persons with disabilities that might want to access support as potential business owners. I wonder if that might be added to their agenda, or at least give a little bit of an update at that conference about how they can access some of your programs, if you might want to check in with Commissioner McCosh. What is the? I'm not familiar, to be honest with you, with the nightlife office. I mean, I've read about it. I'm not all that familiar with it. Can you tell me about that, please?
Sure. So the Office of Nightlife Economy was launched a couple of years ago to do several things. One, so Corinne Reynolds is the current director of nightlife. One was to help help reimagine nightlife because, Boston, as much as we have, 100,000+ students coming through here, we don't want to be a city that's only focused on alcohol or clubbing. Now, all of us maybe in our younger days did that, but we don't really want to do that right now. I mean, even I don't like listening to loud music now anymore, which is a sign that, age is a thing. So anyway, that was one of the things that they were focused on. But really, the goal behind this office was to think about what are the major challenges to having a thriving nightlife economy, not just for those who want consumers, but also for workers. So thinking about transportation, thinking about how we're providing for nightlife workers. So an initiative that Corinne is working on now is late night food trucks, not just for residents to enjoy, but also nighttime workers who don't have food options after hours. And we'll hope to have some updates on the transportation piece as well. And then finally, her job is to work with stakeholders across the nightlife industry to address a lot of the issues that we see popping up. So Councilor Coletta Zapata has brought up the spiking incidents, and as Donald was reading out what Corinne has done in the last year, the goal of the drink covers was a way for city to kind of operate in a quick way to help protect patrons of these restaurants. So there are long-term things that the office is focused on addressing, but also kind of the short-term things of what can we do rapidly to save or protect residents.
Thank you, Chief. And just, Mr. Chair, may I add one comment?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And one point I wanted to make is, maybe this might help, is I met on Zoom last week with the executive director and a couple of the commissioners of the State Department of Public Utilities, and they oversee Uber and Lyft. And I expressed to them my concern about mostly women, young women, but men too, going into Uber and Lyft from some of these restaurants late at night, maybe 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, I don't know, in whether it's in Broadway in South Boston or Boylston Street in the Back Bay area or other areas. But I had a long discussion about public safety concerns. But is this something that the office can also follow up and focus on? Because I expressed to the Department of Public Utilities, I'm not satisfied with the public safety protocols in place to ensure people getting into Uber and Lyft are safe. Mm-hmm. They're actually coming out with a draft recommendation on changes. So maybe your office might want to follow up on that too. I think it's probably coming out in the next couple of weeks on how we can improve, or how they can improve public Uber and Lyft safety for women and men going into these vehicles late at night. So just something to think about.
Well, I think, so I appreciate that, and I think we would all benefit from a conversation between yourself and Corinne, and I'm happy to join as well, but because even for your district in particular, not just the southeast side, but also downtown, there are some ideas that she's been coming up with to help think about how we, folks go out drinking. Sometimes they drink too much, and we're trying to find ways to add extra time for people to kind of wind down from that. So we would love your advice and feedback on some of the things we're thinking about.
Thank you, Chief. And Mr. Chair, thank you for giving me an extra couple minutes.
Thank you, Councilor Flynn. We will now go to public testimony. We were supposed to start public testimony prior to council questions. So when you hear your name called, please state your name, any affiliations. Also, you have 2 minutes to testify. We're going to start with, see if Lori Radwin. You want to raise your hand? I know there's a phone number on the call.
Well, can I just say good morning, Lori? It's always good to be with her.
Lori, the floor is now yours.
Hi, I'm sorry, I was muted. Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you, Chief, for the welcome, and thank you for your testimony. Lori Radlin, Rosendale Coalition. We report to about 100 members and affiliates, and somewhere around 20 to 25% of our members are small business owners in Rosendale Square. We thank the OEOI for engaging with business owners during the Squares and Streets rezoning process. However, serious concerns remain unaddressed. At public meetings and at a Zoom meeting with senior OEOI leadership in November 2024, and in follow-ups that never materialized, small business owners raised pressing issues. Only 21 out of more than 200 businesses in the square are represented in the Planning Department's inventory database. As late as March 2025, some owners on Corinth and Birch Street reported no outreach from the Planning Department about zoning changes. The final zoning plan was released only 2 days before the BPDA vote, leaving little time for business owners to understand the changes, and they are confused. Critically, owners with limited English proficiency, particularly speakers of Mandarin and Vietnamese, were excluded from outreach. Despite repeated requests, no translated materials or target events were provided. These shortcomings raise serious equity concerns. In surveys that the coalition fielded in English and Spanish, 33% of respondents identified as Latino, Latina, and 50% as immigrants. Their feedback did not support the proposed building heights public realm changes or the process by which they were decided. And the Planning Department moved forward despite this feedback. We urge the OEOI to intervene and help protect our small businesses. I just want to share that 4 owners have shared with me they're leaving the square because they don't feel that they've been heard or welcome. 3 out of 4 owners are immigrants. 1 has been in the square for decades. And my question, through the chair if possible, are there actual dollars in the budget to help them relocate it? I know, for example, that the OEOI obtained legal dollars for the business owned by Tally in Tally's Auto, but he's going to be replaced nonetheless. Are there any dollars to help him relocate? Thank you for this time.
Thank you. We'll now go to Emmanuel Payne. Emmanuel, the floor is now yours. If you're talking, you're on mute.
Okay, am I on now? Hello?
Yep. Emmanuel, the floor is now yours.
Oh, hi. I hope everybody doing. Thanks for inviting me to this presentation. My name is Emmanuel Payne. I'm a resident at 34 Malin Road, Dorchester. I'm the owner of Payne Construction Company. We specialize in construction, painting, and local work on that kind of nature. I was watching the presentation, and I gotta say, before I was actually watching the presentation, I was thinking it was going to be much different, but I'm very impressed by all of the presentators, a lot of information that I got, took a lot of notes, very organized, and very inspirational meeting. So I basically just want to say thanks for inviting me here. I got a lot of information down, and looking forward to attending some more of these meetings and getting activated in the community. So thanks for inviting me once again, and good job to everybody in their presentation. Thanks.
Thank you. We'll now go back to my council colleagues in order of arrival for first round of questions. Just want to also acknowledge that we've been joined by Councilor Coletta Zapata. The chair recognizes Councilor Weber. Council, the floor is now yours.
Thank you very much. What's the time here? Did you say?
7 minutes.
7 minutes, okay, thanks. Okay, so I guess, Chief, we've talked a lot about Main Streets and how that's working and how it can be such a great resource for our communities. Can you talk a little bit about funding issues. I've heard from Main Streets directors, how long it takes to get reimbursements, how hard it is. What are we doing to make it easier for them to sort of deliver services to the community?
I would say, and I will kick to Alicia as well, but from my vantage point, a lot of this has to do with timeline for reimbursement, right? And so I think, as I've shared in previous hearings, our Main Streets directors do so much to help take care of small businesses in the district, but sometimes that will interfere with the timeline for being able to timely get things to our team to process and then get the reimbursements done. And so, so that's been one thing. I will say that what we are now doing is getting the contracts out to them earlier, that we are engaging them way earlier in the process to help on the reimbursement piece. So I think those changes are going to help make sure that folks are getting funding on time. I will say also our partnership with the Main Streets Foundation for them to try to step in to help in terms of fundraising, because we don't want our Main Streets to solely be reliant on the city for their funding source. I don't know if there's anything you want to add, Alicia.
I would just add that it's a two-part effort in the sense that we're trying to build the capacity of the Main Streets, as Chief said, and then also improve our own internal processes to make sure that that we have a system that works for everyone and making sure that everything is on time. I will say that it is hard in terms of the fiscal year and when money is allocated versus when like it gets spent down and spent out. And so we've been trying to work on better kind of aligning those as well.
So I did a town hall in West Roxbury last night. One of the questions was about Main Streets, and they said if the city had considered, or if anyone had considered a model where we provided seed money to the Main Streets. So, because my understanding is from Main Streets directors I've talked to in my district, often they will just front the costs, hoping for reimbursement later, and or they're. So I'm wondering if there's some way where we can, and obviously there's some directors who don't, don't have the money in the bank to be able to do that. So
well, Councilor, so to this question, I will just say that this is something that we definitely addressed early on, because I'll just, and I won't take long here. Prior to our coming in, the model was the city had $75,000 per Main Streets, but it was all funded through federal CDBG grants, which then, to your point, meant that an existing Main Streets had to spend $75,000 to then get the $75,000 back. And I completely agree with you. Most of our Main Streets were not in a position to front that money and then get the money back. So what we did was, when we first started here, thanks to the support of the council, was the mayor invested $5 million into the Main Streets program over several years. What that has allowed us to do is two things. One is we do front them money. I don't remember how much, but we do front them $25,000, right, to get started. And there are 3 buckets of money that they have access to. So there's the operating capital, which we raised that. It used to be $57,500. It's now $100,000. Their programming budget went up to $25,000. And then there's a new line item for beautification, $50,000 per Main Street for them to tap into.
Is that per year? Is it
per year?
Yes. Okay.
So just suffice it to say, like, the Main Streets now have access to way more capital, in fact, double what they were getting before. Most of that has shifted to ARPA and operating, which means that they are getting the money up front versus having to be reimbursed. And again, I have to thank the council, because each year you have been approving our slow drip of shifting from federal dollars to operating dollars so we can support the Main Streets. I'm happy to follow up with the director or directors that you spoke with. I'm not sure why that is their existing feeling about the funding mechanism, because I agree with them. I met with every single one of them in December of 21. That was one of the things they shared with me, and we immediately addressed that.
Yeah, and I would also just add that with that, it was double the funding that we provided. So with that is now double the receipts and the amount of processes that we had to do. And Main Streets, the organizations, the individual 501c3s are usually one staff person. So with that, it takes more time to actually process things, which is part of the reason why reimbursements were going out later.
Okay, and so so there is a 25,000 a year in sort of the seed money for
Yes.
each Main Streets, and then I guess are we, because there are gaps in the city that don't have Main Streets programs at all. What are we doing about that?
That is, so, what we inherited was the way the Main Streets program was launched 30 years ago, started off in Rossi, and then it honestly just kind of popped up where people said they wanted a Main Streets, but because they're independent entities that the city, we don't get to dictate what they do, even their boundaries, are self-created, and so don't help us out, right? So Mattapan, it's the square as opposed to parts of Cummings or parts of River. It doesn't make sense that they only cover the square. Blue Hill Ave pretty much has no representation. South Boston, we've worked with the nonprofit there, but South Boston has no representation. So on and on. But just to say that the other side of this, though, and I've said this because Councilor Worrell has asked about this in previous hearings, I also did not want to encourage the creation of more of these before we right-sized the ship, because, again, what we inherited was not a good system. And so if we added more to that, it would be more processing for us to do and more delays, but also more frustrated people. So all that to say, we're happy to talk with you. We are thinking about how we better the program, but it's going to take a lot of engagement with the directors themselves and community members to, have a pathway forward on that.
Okay, I'm going to ask 3 more questions. No, just one quick question.
There will
Sorry,
be
I-
a second round.
I spoke too long.
No, the chair and I have a back and forth about the ground rules of these time limits, but so for supplier diversity, did I see somewhere there's 20-something positions, but only 11 people? Are there openings, are there vacancies
There are,
in
yes.
supplier diversity?
Yes.
But what's going on with that?
So that Shagun did that versus, we haven't been able to find people. So as was noted earlier in our presentation, the director left in the middle of last year. And so I stopped the hiring process because what I did not want to do was to have a director inherit people that they did not get to choose. We have extended an offer. They have to a new person. They've accepted it. We're planning for them to start within the month. And then we'll be ready to fill those roles. But they're ready to go. We know folks are interested because every time we put out positions, we've got 100 folks applying for each. So we're prepared to fill them, but I wanted this person to build their team.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilor Coletta Zapata. Councilor, the floor is now yours.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Chair. I apologize that I was late. So good to see you all. Thank you so much for your work. We're in constant communication, so I really have, I guess I have some questions, I don't know, before I speak. But good to see you, Chief. Thank you so much for being here, Latin Academy's finest. I want to talk about Spike Drinks, mobile business enterprises, the Main Streets. I just have a couple more questions. The storefront approach and local business support and how we're attracting local businesses and how we're competing against national banks, quite frankly. So I think I'll start with that first. I'm not sure if that's been covered. A good example that illuminates the issue is in East Boston. There was an anchor space in Maverick Square that was a corner where the tenants really define the character of Maverick Square. It was a new development. It had a commercial space on the bottom. I had went to the developer early on asking for consideration of a space grant awardee, it's guaranteed money, or a local business. And what he had told me is that he had to answer to a bank that required certain credit, capital, resources, all of that. And really the only businesses that would meet those qualifications were national chains. And so ultimately, the 2 businesses that were considered for that space, Dunkin' Donuts and Taco Bell. Ultimately, Taco Bell got in there. And as you can imagine, it enraged the community, a historically Central Latin American community where there are multiple taco spots. Granted, I understand that there are 2 different businesses. You are well aware of the fact of the quality you're getting at Taco Bell versus Taco Mex. But it's there and it's up and running. It enraged me and it enraged the community. And so I tried to work with this developer, got there early on, and still was told, no, we have to answer to our banks. What are we doing to compete against something like this? And granted, I'm not asking you to solve the national crisis that is trying to get capital for our local businesses, but is there anything in the pipeline, anything that we're thinking about, talking about, looking at what other cities are doing? Would just love to hear your thoughts.
Sure, and appreciate even the example. I'm not going to comment on the quality of products that international companies provide, but we'll just say, because of course we welcome everyone to the city. But in this particular case, I completely agree with you, and it's actually going to be more challenging now because of the state of the economy nationally. And so a lot more property owners are not willing to take the risk to have a small business move in versus a chain that they know is going to, take a 10-year lease, triple net, pay the rent on time, et cetera. Unfortunately, we have to take like a case-by-case approach at the moment because we don't have a kind of a citywide program to help on this. But if you're talking with landlords, we'd love to be part of the conversation because we have found that when our team is involved, we can find ways to work with the landlords to, the space program, I think, is like the perfect example of, if it had existed when this conversation was happening, we could find a couple of space grantees that I know wanted to be in Eastie, and that's $200,000 right there, right? And we could have negotiated a rate that they're not giving all the $200 for rent, but it would be stable, right? And it would be what residents want. So I think on those cases we have to take a case-by-case approach, and it depends on who the property owner is and their willingness to work with us. But we would be happy to talk about what a policy could be. I know Councilor Mejia brought up a couple of years ago, and maybe before we even got to these roles, on measures that would prioritize small businesses over chains. So it might be worthwhile to investigate that as well.
Yeah, I welcome that opportunity. There's already a case that's coming down the pike at 9 Chelsea Street, which has been a bottomless pit and is another opposite side of Maverick Square that's kind of sit there. Before COVID, it was approved for office space. They sold it because we rezoned in East Boston to go up, so now you can still have commercial on the bottom and now residential up top. And so I don't know exactly where that's at now, but it is an opportunity to define the business that goes in there moving forward. Would love to work with you on that. I think with my time, I'll zero in, and thank you for the shout out. I was told that you shouted my office out about the Spiked Drinks collaborative that we took on together, and I'm just appreciative of your work, and thank you for following through on your promises with that in your office. The East Boston Main Streets question that I have is more around what you had already said, just clarifying. So they had gotten $100,000 for operational, right? So that includes the person's salary plus admin.
If they choose. So we leave it open to, it's for operational. They can use it for rent, they can use it for salary, they can use it for other expenses related to that.
And $25K in programming, and how much for beautification?
$50,000.
Okay. Something that I'm working on with East Boston Main Streets, and we just got a new executive director, is their ability, so maximizing their capacity, because they're just one person. He's also a realtor and all of that. We were talking about doing a small business needs assessment in East Boston, trying to coordinate with some university that's willing to take this on, but to just understand and audit where we are at as a community. East Boston Main Streets only has the jurisdiction of our squares, so Maverick Square, Day Square. There's no wholesale audit or list of businesses that we have in Eastie, so trying to figure out what amenities we have, what we need, what the neighborhood needs. Like, I just know off the top of my head, we need a hardware store, we need another grocery store. So just letting you know that we're trying to get that done. Would love to partner with you on that, but then also going a step further and understanding what the economic landscape looks like, what their rents are. Is it a triple net lease? Is it the other type of lease? There's not a list that exists, and trying to understand like what their monthly costs are, and just kind of zooming out. And I would love to talk more about that with you all. And if there's work already being done by this, obviously don't want to duplicate your efforts. But I'm just curious to know if there is an audit or a citywide or neighborhood-wide, just like zoom out to understand what the landscape looks like in terms of leases, what type of rents they have, and then also where there is open commercial space in general, beyond just the East Boston Main Streets or Main Street districts.
I'll work backwards. So would be happy to, we just had a great meeting with Councilor Weber to talk about the commercial vacancy piece and kind of identifying what's out there. So we'll hope to have some updates for you in the coming months on how the city will plan to identify where those vacancies are to help small business owners find a place to be. Completely agree on the market study analyses need to be done across the city. And it's not just for the main streets to have an understanding of what needs to be brought in. I think even for the example you brought up, 9, I missed the street.
9 Chelsea.
Chelsea.
Yep.
Like a market study analysis or the assessment you're talking about would help a property owner even think about what will get community support, what would be successful here, and to build it out, build a space out in that way. I mean, again, we've been talking with the planning department on, I use the example of Mattapan all the time of, thanks to this council led by Councilor Worrell pushing for more liquor licenses, but there aren't a ton of spaces currently in Mattapan Square or Mattapan in general that could house like a, 50-seat, 75-seat restaurant. But with development coming, I for sure want something on paper that says we need 3 restaurants in whatever area, and when a developer is building out a space, they're building it out ready for a restaurant versus a small business owner having to pay $1 million to outfit it to be a restaurant. So that said, I completely agree. It can help the Chelsea Street folks figure out what should go there, but also even your previous example would have helped them know a chain probably shouldn't go here because I'm going to get all this flack from the neighbors, but here's something that would generate revenue and ensure that they're going to pay their rent on time. So happy to chat about that because I want that for the whole city. And then you made a comment on the boundaries of East Boston Main Street. I'm just going to say for all of you, these are independent 50c3 entities. The only boundaries that they have are the ones they place on themselves. So if they want to increase their boundaries, it's their charter. So they file it with the Secretary of State if they want to make that change. But obviously they'll have to consider the capacity piece, right? So we can talk about that. It does not mean that there's more funding from us, but certainly, yeah, in terms of who they're impacting, that's a decision that they can make on their own at the moment.
Excellent. Thank you all so much for your work, really. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Coletta Zapata. And just to piggyback off of Councilor Coletta Zapata's question, I know in the past, Common Square NDC and I think the Neighborhood Council also did like a financial leakage report just showing where residents are leaving their community to go and buy items or services. So I don't know if you guys have that when it comes to business districts, but that would also be useful to equip district councilors with. And then also, what are the specs that are needed to build out some of those spaces for a restaurant, or I'm thinking that you might have like a list of businesses that are looking for space, right? And they have like a certain criteria on what space they need, whether it's like a supermarket or a daycare. So if district councils are equipped with that information, we could do advocacy on our end to help push developers and also inform community members on, this is the data that we have.
Definitely, yeah, we can work with you on that. On the leakage piece, working with the research division in the planning department led by Alvaro Lima, we produced something of this nature for the Mattapan Task Force just to show what was happening there. And actually some interesting findings that 50% of the folks who are living there are spending their money in Mattapan Square, which was encouraging to see. And I think it kind of backs up the overall data that we see that, Boston has one of the lowest retail vacancies in the country. And I think that is buoyed by the fact that residents are spending their money with small businesses here. But we'd be happy to, I can talk with Alvaro, maybe not today because I'm spending the whole day with you all, but tomorrow to let him know that we should start creating these reports for each Main Street district and then sharing it with the relevant counselor.
Yeah, and I know you're excited about spending the day.
Oh yeah, no, I love it.
The whole day inside.
Brought my coffee, everything.
The council.
Yeah.
And piggybacking off of those comments or remarks that you just shared, what makes a business district truly active and thriving? And then how do we communicate that shared vision with our neighbors? Because when new businesses sometimes come into the neighborhood and they're very popular, neighbors and residents can see that as a disturbance, right? Because like the lack of parking, right? And if it's a new busy business, it could you're parking in front of someone's house. But how do we balance, those goals of economic growth and the need to protect the quality of life for residents, and how do we communicate that?
Okay, you've only got 4 minutes left, Counselor. I'll just say that it's important to have a diversity of small businesses in the area. And I think that's why we see sort of a depression in some neighborhoods in terms of foot traffic and spending. When you have a proliferation of one business type, whether it be like barbershops or corner stores or whatever that are within the same vicinity, it depresses turnout. And therefore, money is not going to other small businesses. So one of the things that we will hope, with these needs assessments, as Councilor Coletta Zapata pointed out, is understanding what are the different types of businesses that should be in like a Codman Square or a Mattapan Square that will encourage folks to come and spend their day, really. So like I think of Nubian Square. I was talking with Frugal a few weeks ago and talking about like what are, asking them, but also sharing ideas about like what are the things that will bring people here to spend time at the bookstore, but then they'll go somewhere else, like an ice cream shop or, things like that, right? So it's not just restaurants that we want to bring to the square. It's all the, a hardware store, dry cleaners, et cetera, right? So you can spend your day. So those are some of the things that we're focused on. I think these reports will help because it will be on paper. But certainly when we're helping people identify where they want to go, Aaliyah Forrest, I mentioned, Director of Business Strategy, because of space, we have this tool to help people see where there are some spaces on the market. We avoid sending them to places that there's already a bunch of what they are. So if it's a restaurant, we're not going to send them where there's already a bunch of restaurants there. We're going to send them where there might not be one so that they'll do better business. Bold Skin Babe, right? It's I need to go, but you can get facials and stuff there. She's doing great where she is downtown because there are no other businesses like hers in the area. So that's the type of thing that, anyway, that was a long-winded way to say diversity of business, I think, is a way to stimulate small business growth.
Got it. And then how do we communicate like our shared goal of making sure that all of our business districts are thriving and we plan on making them busy? How do we communicate that goal? Because some neighbors could see that as a disturbance, right? In terms of like the lack of parking that I have in my business districts. I think Common Square, there's probably like 20 different retail shops, maybe even more, but there's only one municipal parking lot. So, patrons are parking on side streets, they're double parking. So how do we communicate like what comes with a thriving business district to our neighborhood
Well,
residents?
I think we have to accentuate the positives.
Right. I agree.
Because yes, the parking, other quality of life issues become a challenge, but they're solvable. And so what we can't do is say, well, because these things may happen, therefore we should not be focused on growth or bringing in new and exciting businesses that my neighbors will enjoy and that ultimately I could enjoy, or my kids or grandkids. Those things we can solve. What is more difficult to solve is the opposite of businesses don't want to be in your area and you have to hop in your car and drive to Dedham or Braintree or Randolph to get the service that you could be within walking distance.
Right. Yeah, no, and I agree. And I think that if the residents are hearing this from the city, it can help with attracting businesses and keeping them inside that neighborhood, because sometimes the business owners, they feel that push, from our residents. Mm-hmm. In terms of small business and BTD and planning, does the department do any economic impact studies on when a major street design has happened in the area, either before or during, the planning stage?
This is certainly something that we are happy to talk with our colleagues at Transportation about. Our team does not do research. We deliver their services, but we're happy to chat with our colleagues about the need to produce these type of analyses before these major projects are taken on.
All right. And this is my last question, somewhat of an advocacy, and I know Supplier and Diversity, BRJP used to be underneath that has split, but we also have procurement and OBM. Has there been any thought on merging Supplier Diversity with procurement?
Every year I appreciate that question. I am happy to take that question back to my colleagues to take that under consideration. But I will say that we have a great working relationship with procurement. And actually, you know, the numbers that were shared in the presentation are wholly made possible because of this partnership. So, you know, what you're identifying is more of a structural change that would take a while anyway to move forward if we decided to move in that direction. But I think at the moment, you know, we have a very fruitful relationship.
Awesome. I'm going to go to my council colleagues for second round of questions. Starting with Councilor Flynn. Councilor, the floor is now yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, thank you to the administration team. I asked a bunch of questions initially, so I'll only have one or two questions, I guess. Are we able to consider having a Main Street program in South Boston?
I believe that we're happy to explore that.
What would the steps be necessary? Certainly, as you know, Chief, South Boston Neighborhood Development Corporation kind of acts as the de facto main streets, but they don't necessarily receive the support or the financial or technical support. But what would the steps necessary be to make that happen?
Yeah, so again, these are independent entities. So, you know, I think they, first of all, have to go through the National Main Streets organization to register, I think. But, you know, that can be kind of a lengthy process. I think we are happy to work with the organization to make sure that they have access to the funds that we have to support Main Streets. I do want to note, the money that we get from the federal government does not state explicitly this money goes to an entity named Main Streets. It is only to support the Main Streets districts. So if this entity were, in terms of beautification, for instance, right, if they wanted to get planters or whatever they think is beautification, we are happy to entertain an application from them for those type of funds. So just to say again, like for your district in particular, we are happy to make sure they have access to the funding that we make available.
Thank you, Chief. And my final question, as it relates to Main Street, my final question to end my time of talking. As it relates to Main Streets in Chinatown, certainly many of the businesses, as you know, are immigrant-owned businesses. Many of the residents, many of the business owners are also people of color as well. Some banking-related challenges, but knowing all of those factors, is there anything unique that can be done to support Asian-owned businesses in Chinatown?
We're happy to work with your office to develop, whether it's specific programming like we've done with veteran services, et cetera, to make sure that we're highlighting Chinatown. I mean, that actually, what we're grateful for, I think, you know, as we mentioned in the first part of the presentation, because actually you brought it up, which was an important call out to us in our first couple of years that we did not have AAPI representation on our neighborhood business manager staff. Now we do. It actually is the former ONS liaison for Chinatown, so there's already those built-in connections. So anyway, a short way of just saying that, yes, we're happy to work with you. We already have a great relationship with the Main Streets, but you know, anything you're thinking of, we're happy to partner with you on.
Yeah, Chu Wan.
Yes.
He did a tremendous job as the ONS coordinator in Chinatown. So just want to acknowledge Chu Wan's professionalism and hard work over the last several years. Mr. Chair, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Council Weber. Council, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. So just on supplier diversity and White Stadium, I think there was an advisory, the group established in February. Can you just give us an update? Maybe you did.
Sure.
I apologize if you've covered
Always
this
happy to
already.
talk about it. Always happy, you know. And I'll do my best not to take up your full 6 minutes on this. So, so yes, it was launched in February. There are 13 folks on that advisory board who represent a wide swath of business diversity, whether it's the Asian Business Empowerment Council, BACMA, Amplify, et cetera. And we've had several meetings. You know, they have really been helpful in been doing several things. One is holding us accountable as an administration. And so because of their feedback and their input, we now have the website updates where we will be regularly updating where we are on supplier diversity. The way we've been engaging people has been informed by them. So these 4 events that we're hosting that are directly in the impacted communities, we've had 2 of them already. We've had more than 100 folks turn out, and that is directly because of the folks on this group. And what you'll see on the website is that we're at roughly 30% for contracts being awarded to minority businesses so far. There's a lot more work to do, but as of, so far the contracts that have been awarded 30% to minority and women-owned businesses. So they've been helping out greatly to advance supplier diversity goals.
Okay, and then how can we stay up to date on on how this is going? Like, will the group issue a report, or who should we ask when as construction wraps up? And
yeah, we're happy to. I think first we're happy to send something written to the council on a particular basis. Happy to talk about what the cadence of that should be. It should probably match the construction schedule so that you're getting substantive updates versus just a copy and paste. So we can talk about how we share those updates beyond the website. But then, I think the help from the offices here is much of what the advisory board is doing as well. We want as many contractors as possible to know about the opportunities coming up, about the events that we're doing, because supplier diversity, procurement, public facilities, we're all working to connect folks to these opportunities to get them prepared. So we would love any partnership to get the word out.
Sure, and then I'm assuming this isn't covered in supplier diversity, but you correct me if I'm wrong. I would love to see a connection to the local businesses in Eggleston Square, so people can go to the stadium. They're in from out of town. They maybe get some food from a La Parada, vendor or something, and then the next time they come to a game, they see La Parada in Eggleston Square, and they have that sort of connect. I don't know if any outreach is being done to the local businesses that are, mostly Dominican-owned, right near the stadium.
Mm-hmm. Well, first, I think there'll be a lot of organic understanding of that, right? Because they're just with fans coming in to go to the games. However, what you're identifying is something that I really would love to work with specific district councilors on, including yourself, because I'm thinking of Eggleston, I'm thinking of Blue Hill Ave, I'm thinking of Seaver Street. We need to make sure that the infrastructure is there to support business growth and to make sure that these businesses are prepared for when there are 10,000, knock on wood, folks that are coming, every Saturday or Sunday, right, to play at these games. And right now, I don't think that's there, right? And so these liquor licenses are going to be very helpful, and we are trying to think strategically about how we're awarding the licenses, but it's more than just the licenses. We have to be able to make sure that the right set of businesses are along these corridors to support, the influx of folks that will come out, to ensure that they're, yes, spending their money there versus, going somewhere else to, going downtown or Seaport to eat and then going down there. We want that money in that community. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I mean, I do think there's some uncertainty in Eggleston Square anyway from the businesses that I've spoken to, and I do think the potential is there for this having a great impact, but we have to be thoughtful about it, and so I look forward to working on that. And then you mentioned the meeting we had about the commercial vacancy, what we're doing about commercial vacancies, and my sense was we were working on a database and trying to figure that out. Is there something in the budget that's allocated for that, or are we still in the
I don't think
talking phase?
I don't think we need additional monies. I think and I neglected to say this earlier, but the budget that the mayor put forward, I think, is very responsible. A lot of it is about just putting to work what we have. So I think on this piece, we're exploring what makes the most sense, but I think with Do It at the table, it's really about leveraging the resources they have to develop whatever page we want on the website to kind of host this database.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Council Weber. The chair recognizes Council Coletta Zapata. Councilor, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I didn't get a chance to ask about the mobile business enterprise, how that's going. We had worked quite closely on the food cart pilot program. Would love to understand challenges, how we're going to move forward with that program. Thank you.
I will kick to my team members.
Yeah, well, I would, just like to thank you, Counselor, for your support with this program and your advocacy for it. I think for us, last year we learned a lot with the initial pilot program, and what we uncovered there was that a lot of the businesses actually didn't have the money for a cart. And so we have two big, so that was one of what we uncovered, and the other one was actually establishing zones or areas that are designated for food carts. So we've been working with Do It in terms of like using geospatial data to figure out where we can across the city find locations for food carts, and also working with BTD as well for mobile enterprises, so increasing that amount. And then also not making it all on the city. So if there is a location that a business owner would, or an entrepreneur that would like to pursue that, that location, clarifying the speculations that are needed for them so we can approve it in our system. So we've been working across departments to figure that out, and we hope to have some updates in a couple of weeks about kind of the locations, and then also the process if you want to, like, or request a spot.
Mm-hmm.
And if I may, Counselor, the chief had mentioned earlier the work that Kareem Reynolds is doing on the nightlife side. So we're also trying to bring mobile enterprise to that specific demographic. We're also looking at, I met last week with property management, and I said, you know, this is our footprint. What advantages can we take of in this case? And so I don't know if many of you found the Tot Lot is the hottest place in town.
Where?
It's packed, the Tot Lot, right outside the playground, City Hall
Oh,
playground.
right here? With the slide?
With the cop slide.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
I didn't say it, you said it. Sorry.
And so I'm having conversations with property management, and I'm hearing, oh, this is a great destination. And so I'm saying, okay, well, this is the land that we operate. Why not have a food cart kind of position program in and around the area? As we're having this conversation, there's a rogue ice cream truck that's parked out there. Property management shared that with me. I went out to talk to him.
Yeah.
Hey, you know, let's have a conversation. We are actually looking at this location to potentially bring a mobile enterprise. And having the conversations one-on-one, Alicia's done it, Weldon has done it, and a lot of our team, we find information. A lot of it is about where they've identified areas in which they can make money. Mm-hmm. So what they're doing is going out, testing the waters first and foremost. And if there's no issue, if no one says anything to them, they'll stay there. What we've realized here, and that what we can control, why not program it? We looked at that location. I've asked property management to give me two. I walked up above, and most people have not done that in this building. If you go just up above the Tot Lot, there's this grand space of seating areas, trees that go unoccupied for 90% of the summer. So I looked at it and I said, well, can we put a food cart above the Tot Lot? Could we have one over here? Just to start talking about how can we additionally program the area. So we talk about this all the time. Alicia's like, what kind of crazy ideas Donald going to come up with this year?
I love it.
But there's quite a bit that we can do, and I just want to say that we are working on it.
I know you are. I know you are. And this idea has been so well received, not just by the city, but by residents and entrepreneurs. And I love the fact that you are looking at our own property as a way, okay, how can we make sure that we are setting up these businesses for success on our own turf, and then getting all of the bureaucratic administrative nonsense out of the way after that, but then also understanding that entrepreneurs and small business owners are resilient. They will find the path of least resistance, but the path to make the most money. So they've already identified areas of high traffic and pedestrian locations. So I'm happy to hear that that's the method of where you're going. Of course, like this is my goal, this is my dream, is to have these folks in the middle of the neighborhood build their wealth to be able to afford a brick and mortar. This is supposed to be an economic tool, and so just providing or fostering the conditions internally to make that a reality is something that I'm really passionate about. I know that you are as well. And there's one other thing I wanted to say about this, but of course I'm losing it. But yeah, just thank you for that. We welcomed Chicho's in Boston recently, who got an elote food cart, which I'm really excited about. And so if you're listening, come to East Boston. We'd love to have you.
So to that point, Weldon and I had a conversation with him 2 weeks ago. Really to kind of, it's got to be a collaboration on both sides. And I wanted to get his perspective on what he felt the process was like. We're always working on barriers to business. And so when we have a small vendor, large vendor, it doesn't matter. We want to better understand what that process was like and how we can fix it if there are issues, but also grow it and expand upon it.
Yeah, I remembered what I wanted to ask. I would just clarify, which is that you all were working with Do It for geospatial data. Can you just repeat that for me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we worked with them for outdoor dining to basically see what spaces across the city would be prime to have these locations. And so that we're trying to use that information for the food carts and mobile enterprises as well.
Okay. I know that we had also issues with, I'm sorry, I'm all over the map here. We had issues with commissary kitchens too. Did you find that was something that was persistent?
Yeah, that is a big issue, but we've worked with ISD and specifically the health department, so businesses can work with local restaurants to use their restaurants as commissary kitchens. And so it's about the business owner identifying a good partnership with that kind of, with a restaurant.
And that sort of partnership was successful?
We have examples of where it's been successful, but again, going into a partnership, I would recommend kind of laying out a clear agreement first.
Okay. Can I say one last thing, Chair?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. I do just want to shout out Corianne because she has been so wonderful and doing an amazing job and so effective at what her job is. She's one person for the entire city. And yes, she does have an amazing job, but it is difficult. And from what I can see, she's rolled out the spike drinks, technical assistance, and some of the supplies to the businesses. She's working with you all for the food carts. Sorry, Chief, I was about to call you Shagun. Chief, you and I talk about Faneuil Hall as like an opportunity for a night market or something like that, like reclaiming Faneuil Hall for the residents of Boston. That's now my area that I represent. Putting that out there in the ether just to maybe resurrect that conversation, but just wanted to shout out Corianne in particular and thank her for her work. Thank you.
We appreciate that, Councilor. She, I completely agree. Yeah, she's helping move a lot of these conversations forward as well, and then at the same time is also out there. I actually don't know when she sleeps because she's also out there at night, at different spots to make sure things are going well and checking in with folks. So, yeah, +1 to what you said. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Coletta Zapata. I'm going to try to get all my questions in 7 minutes. If not, ignore the buzzer.
Chair prerogative.
My office has had conversations with state agencies about, the cultural district, and I filed a hearing order on creating some of these across the city. Does small business work with state on that type of work, or is there even like grants that support, right, those cultural cities, not cultural cities, but cultural districts as they get stood up here in the city of Boston?
I mean, our team doesn't specifically provide any funding for that. I might direct that to Mayor's Office of Arts and Culture. However, it is interesting that you bring up this question because I, quite literally 2 weeks ago, was talking with Michael Bobbitt, who himself is interested in looking at cultural districts as an economic development tool versus just saying this is an area that, X culture. And we are going to be chatting very shortly about what a partnership with the City of Boston can look like on that front. So I would say more to come, and we're happy to make sure your office is involved in that conversation.
Absolutely. It's definitely something I'm interested in exploring and trying to figure out the policy that works around those opportunity zones. I know in the past, we've had conversation around, barriers to business on how do we, streamline the permitting process for retail shops or any type of business to get up and running here in the city of Boston. Can you talk to me about the progress we have made in streamlining some of those permitting processes?
It's also funny that you bring up that question because right now, I'm not blaming you, I'm just saying that there is a conversation happening with the administration team. So the mayor essentially has put together a team internally to work across all departments and cabinets to address a lot of the challenges, because it's not just small businesses that face these issues, it's constituents in various areas that face similar challenges. So we're taking a citywide approach to addressing this, and there is a meeting right now with all the different departments and cabinets to update us on their progress on addressing these issues. We've had numerous conversations with the team about what our folks, our constituents are facing, as have others, ISD, housing, et cetera. So they're sharing their updates now. I will hope to be able to parrot that back to you at some point, but just to say that the city is taking measures to address this and to think of different customized solutions, whether it's technical, whether it's policy-oriented, et cetera.
Awesome. And then looking at the contracted services budget line item in OEOI, we spent $3.1 million in FY23, and then only spent $1.6 in FY24. But we budgeted $2 million in FY25, and are proposed for $3.2 million in FY26. Can you explain the ups and downs and talk about how that line item is being spent in FY25? What is this being used for? And can you just describe?
So I would have to look specifically, but I know that at least 1.1 million of that has been for our legacy business program. And I'm trying to think of some of the other major programs that we initiated that, the other, few million would have went to. So I'd have to give you a written response on that, Councilor.
Okay. And then on page 11 of your RFI, you talk about a compact of understanding with Cambridge on shared goals.
Yes.
Can you describe what's part of that MOU and compact? And are you sharing information on suppliers, and what information is shared? Is that a registry, and are there plans to expand to other cities?
Yes. So because of all the great work that the entire city team, in particular procurement and supplier diversity, have done to advance our goals, and I'll just say for the record, with 1 year, we spent $100 million with minority firms for the first time in the city's history, and note that it took 5 years for the city to spend $30 million with the same group of people previous to any of us being here. And in that same year, awarded contracts worth $225 million to diverse businesses. So again, another historic achievement for the city. And so noting this progress that the city has been making, Cambridge, which just did their own disparity study and found that they have some work to do as well, decided to partner with us to help move their progress forward. So the MOU that we have with them, from memory, I think does three things. So one is exactly kind of what you laid out, that we're identifying contractors in Cambridge, helping get them certified. So right now we have a reciprocal relationship with the state's Supplier Diversity Office, where if you get certified with the city, it's recognized at the state level and vice versa. So we have the same partnership with Cambridge. We will help them get certified, and it will be recognized at the state level, so they avoid having to go through multiple processes. I know we've committed to doing shared events together as well, which have been successful for us, and I think that might be the only.
Data sharing.
Oh, and data sharing, which actually has been really key for even for us to move things forward. Mostly, ethnicity, who the companies are, et cetera. So essentially, it's knowledge sharing to help them move forward.
And then what information do we have on the companies or businesses that we award contracts to? Do we have their demographic of their staff? What information do we have?
Oh, on the staff, and
Right.
Interesting. I don't know, because when people are going through the certification process, it really is focused on ownership, versus
right.
staff. I can go back and chat with our folks about how we would go a level deeper in collecting the information on the staffing. Yeah, right now, and even on the demographic piece, we don't have all of it for even folks that are getting contracts, because this actually was an important partnership that we established in this fiscal year, which is the state finally is going to share their demographic data with us, because on their contracts they weren't sharing that information before. So we never had a full picture of the ethnicity, et cetera, of folks getting contracts. Now we will. So we'll hope that in the next iteration of these quarterly updates, you will not only see minority business, but also which group that they're a part of.
Got it. Yeah, and I would love, if next deeper level would be taking a look at the staff, knowing that we want that to trickle down, right? Liquor license. A lot of the businesses or restaurants in my district are takeout only. So in order for them to be able to, get a liquor license or to make use of a liquor license, they have to, change around their whole store, right? What type of supports are we providing to those takeout restaurants that are looking to do that conversion?
And we might wind up repeating ourselves later this afternoon, because I know licensing will be up too, to talk about a lot of the efforts that we've been collaborating on across the cabinet to provide support. But Alicia, I don't know if...
Yeah, so we have a TA provider that supports with architectural rendering for businesses who want to change things around.
Awesome.
And then we've also done walkthroughs of the communities, going to different restaurants. We have a flyer printed in multiple languages, going to different places, letting them know about the liquor license, letting them know what can be possible in our office. And so we've done that throughout the city.
And we did mailers as well. We identified restaurants that did not currently have a license but might have a CV, and mailed out information as well, so that they could sign up for more information for learning how to get a license.
That's awesome. And it looks like it's working because of your recent liquor license informational session was packed. So, great engagement and outreach work that you guys are doing. How have you been able to manage impacts from recently imposed tariffs? You mentioned in response to RFIs the potential to enter into long-term fixed price contracts as an example of solution. Any update on that?
Yeah, well, it's day by day, because as we know that, yesterday tariffs were at 100 whatever %, and today it might be gone. So, but so we're all navigating uncharted waters at the moment. What I will say is, as I've mentioned previously, the city's plan was always thinking about when federal dollars go away, because even if the election went a different way, it didn't necessarily mean we'd have a similar Congress and that we would get support. So we've always been thinking about how to, transition off of ARPA and settle back into what we used to have. So just to say that when it comes to different programs, we're continuing to have conversations with funders externally about supporting our programs. And then on staffing, we had already begun in 2022, again, thanks to the support of the council, to start transitioning staff off of federal dollars onto operating, so that we weren't impacted and losing staff in the long run.
Awesome. And speaking of ARPA, one of the programs that everyone was so excited about was space grants. And what are your thoughts? I know that there was some initial thoughts on exploring a private-public partnership. Where are we at with that?
We're still having those conversations. One of the things we did complete, we had a couple of actually a couple of different sets of students and other entities that helped to produce some initial data points on the program, because we are talking with folks about helping to support, provide X amount of dollars to stand up a new program. But what will be more helpful in those conversations are the data points of impact. So early on, we can say, yes, 91 businesses, 75% people of color, 60% women-owned, 800 jobs are going to be created. But folks are just getting the money, they're just opening up their stores. We want to also be able to talk about, we saw X revenue come in because of the holistic support. We've seen, salaries of X amount provided because we gave this support. So, that's going to take a little longer. Those proof points will be important for getting sustained funding, I would say.
Got it. And then on top of that, when we're awarding businesses with grants or contracts, we want to make sure that they stay around. I think our job is to make sure that that businesses being able to be awarded a legacy award from now until then. But one of the things that I put, and I know you've been working on this, director, is similar to like how MAHA, right? You have to go through a program in order to get that down payment assistance. Can you speak to me, like, how can we connect, right? How can we make sure that prior to awarding them, that they have all the knowledge and the technical assistance they need before awarding them with
Yeah, so
funding?
that is a really great question, and it's something that we work to do across all of our programs within OEOI as a cabinet, and it's something that I'm really proud of that we've done this year to really think through that process. So with the CAP program, we're thinking about how are we, it's not only about getting somebody this great commercial space that they own.
Right.
It's how are we helping them after?
Right.
It's not only saying that you're a legacy business, but how are we, if another storefront is in your horizon, what does that look like if succession is there? So beforehand, what we've been doing now, and with a lot of the ARPA grants, what we did was we asked, okay, what do you need help with? And then we've worked with the provider to do an assessment to then see, okay, here are some of your strengths and here are some of your weaknesses. And then we're having our neighborhood business managers following up with the businesses to then say, okay, let's work on this. Do you need extra technical assistance? Do you need extra help? What avenue can we do? So we're trying to kind of cover in all different levels in that way and do it across the cabinet.
Awesome. And I know downtown is a major focus for attracting businesses. I would like a staple business inside of Dorchester or Mattapan. So when we're having these conversations on attractive businesses, are we just focusing on downtown, or are we talking about other parts of the city as well? More specifically, Dorchester, Mattapan, Rosendale, anywhere in District 4. We have some prime real estate on American Legion Highway. Yeah.
The short answer is yes.
Okay.
We're a citywide office, and we care about all parts of the city. As much as we're focused on downtown and revitalizing that area, because a lot of, since we're reliant on property taxes, it's an important piece of the puzzle. At the end of the day, the focus on the neighborhoods actually is what is attracting companies to come to the downtown. As I said, the focus on more affordable housing, on a stable and vibrant business district in our neighborhoods, et cetera. If we're making the city livable, employees want to move here, and therefore the companies will want to move here. That being said, we are always very happy to chat with your office about identifying kind of key areas and then thinking about who and what we want to attract. And there have been a couple of opportunities in your district to think that through.
Awesome. And I know it might be a multi-year plan, but definitely one that I'm interested in.
I would say, because even, for instance, we were talking with the Greater Mattapan Neighborhood Council about Mattapan Square with daily table leaving. I think what would be helpful for us too, beyond identifying the spaces, is who. Right? And so both who you want and also who you don't want. So like we heard from Councilor Kalila Zapata, no Taco Bell, no whatever the other one was that I'm going to hide,
Orange straw.
But if we know who we want to see, we are always happy to activate ourselves to go if we don't already have a contact, to get a contact and start talking to folks to consider this neighborhood.
Awesome. Yeah, happy to provide you with some suggestions. Going back to White Stadium, I know you talked about the contract on the construction side, but I know that the team is responsible for managing the maintenance of the field and the stadium. And I believe like that's the ongoing job creation and the economics that I would love to make sure that our residents are a part of. Is the team held to the Boston residency policy for the staff that maintains the fields and the grandstand?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. And then is there, and I'm sure there is, but what is the plan in terms of pushing out those jobs for the community?
Well, I'll say two things. One is, since you brought up BRJP, for the contracts that the team is awarding at the moment, they are subject to BRJP, and they are reporting that to BRJP.
Awesome.
And those numbers have been very good. And I think one of the follow-ups from today is to make sure that on the supplier diversity page, we are also sharing the BRJP numbers on that page, so we're being transparent about progress there. In terms of a plan for operation, on both the, I'll say a little bit on the business side and then the workforce side. So right now we are talking, when we have these events that I see Aziza over my right shoulder here, who's part of our team and helping to lead these events. We are sharing all the upcoming opportunities, not just for construction, but also for management, for operation, et cetera, and building up that database so that when those opportunities are available, we already have a network of folks to reach out to. On the job side, I believe the conversation has been that once construction is a little bit more complete, to begin working on kind of papering the neighborhood, reaching out to folks in the neighborhood to make them aware of job opportunities. I modeled the advisory board off of what Encore did when they were about to build their piece, and it included having job fairs, et cetera, and so we'll hope to activate that advisory board in the same way to again get a pipeline of folks who are prepared for these opportunities when they become available.
Awesome. And trust me, I'm gonna get you guys out of here before 1 o'clock.
That's another hour there.
Using 399 Washington Street as an example, when we see these offices build and sell for much less, how are we engaging with the new owners to fill their commercial space?
399 Washington was.
It was the, let me pull it up, the downtown crossing.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, just
this is
sold for
the
1/5
old,
of its pre-pandemic price. Yeah.
Oh, well, anytime we see so first of all, and I know that, again, a lot of in the news, Boston, we have a tendency to, again, like I said, because we don't compare ourselves to others, we sometimes look at ourselves in a vacuum. It's like, oh my goodness, X, Y, Z happened, therefore doom and gloom. But it's actually, no, the market is adjusting itself. We went through a major global pandemic. People are reconsidering how they want to work. And so we see adjustments being made. But our downtown is bouncing back. Folks want to be here. That being said, whenever we see a sale happen, if we don't already have a relationship, we reach out to build that relationship. So again, Aaliyah Forrest, who's our Director of Business Strategy, as soon as we saw that sale happen, we reached out immediately. Sometimes we also learn outside of the news. We have, like I said earlier, we have a great partnership with the Downtown Business Alliance. When they get word of things that are happening, we are as deeply involved as the DBA, and so again, we build these relationships to understand what they want to do and to provide some advice on if they don't know what they want to put there. We're always happy to give suggestions.
Awesome. I know I've advocated in the past for like a supplier diversity day week where all the city contracts are made available, just to kind of create more predictability and consistency in the mind of these small businesses. How do we continue to promote consistency and public awareness around these processes and the releasing of these bids?
So I will say two things here. One is I'm going to give a shout out to Kelsey Brune and Emma Feeney on our team. because ever since they joined, our communications has exploded and been incredible. In fact, I'm humble brag that our communications are doing even better than any other city department, except for the mayor's channels, of course. But it's because of these two and the rest of our team who are getting this information to them to put out there. But we are always finding new ways to get this information out. It's not just social media, it's billboards, ads in the papers, et cetera. We're finding all different ways to get the information out. The difficulty on having a Supplier Diversity Day or week where, we do have a Supplier Diversity Week in November, but in the way that you're framing it, of making people aware of all the opportunities, one of the ways that folks can see these opportunities is through the buying plan. However, it would not be valuable for having like a day and saying, here's what it is, because not every contract has an RFP that's ready with deadlines of when it's going to come out and when the bid is going to close. That happens over the course of the year. So it's been difficult to kind of line that up and say everyone needs to have their RFP ready come July 1, because people are still figuring out, what their needs are. So the way we've done this is sign up for our newsletter, because we use our newsletter, which has thousands of folks on it already, to share out opportunities are available. The RFPs that have done the best in terms of engagement have been, we put out the information. Emma puts together these great graphics that show the RFP number, the value of the contract. We share it out through all of our networks. People see a contract worth $1 million, they're going to bid.
The dollar signs.
Exactly, and that's the change. To be honest with you, is that folks were bidding on these things, and they might be the $10,000 or $25,000 things, and they wouldn't know until they download the application. But now they know if it's worth it to chase after it, right? So we're finding ways to do exactly what you're saying needs to happen, but making it happen on a day or a week will be difficult.
Well, I was more thinking also like quarterly. There will be like every last day in the quarter, or something to that extent. But it sounds like it's working, and thank you to all your work.
I would also add, that we're also, we did 50 plus events, and then we went to 60 community events.
Oh, nice.
And that's ongoing. And so whenever we're out in the community, we're talking about it. We're making sure businesses actually know that they can respond, they can apply. And then if they need help, our office has technical assistants that will help them kind of like go through the contract and apply for it.
And I'll just be brief. I think a lot of what we started initially some years ago is that we thought we could program and have an event where we could get all this information out. Departments weren't ready for, everybody had their own cadence. Right. And so now that we're working cross-departmentally, we can come up with a bit more structure. What I will say is exciting about Supplier Diversity Week and things of that nature is that allows for these businesses to come in and cultivate a relationship with that particular department of interest. They didn't have that ability before. It was strictly trying to shoot an email, or if you responded to a bid and you weren't awarded, you got a letter that just said you weren't awarded. Right. These are opportunities where we see folks, repeat customers, I like to call them, but these are our constituents. They're coming in, they know when we have an event, they're gonna use this term, pull up. They wanna find out, they wanna see that person in parts. They wanna see that person in procurement, because they've established a rapport with them.
See, and this is why, right, that procurement and supplier diversity, you guys are making all the right points. My last question is, I want to make a quote, right, that I like is, I want to make sure we're not mistaking motion for progress.
Okay.
And we've certainly seen activity around supplier diversity and city contracting, but for the public's understanding and as a reminder of what works, can you walk us through the key steps that led to the solutions and highlight any proven strategies we should keep front and center?
Yes. First of all, if you start doing proverbs at the end of your statements, people really won't be able to tell the difference. So, and by the way, I love that, we got this lineup of beards. So beard gang in the house. I appreciate that question, because you're absolutely right. I mean, a lot of times what we see in administrations is that, per administration, that might be a great thing, and then when a new administration comes in, it goes away. What the efforts that we've taken under the direction of Mayor Wu is to make sure that we are establishing things in policy and principle that are going to last no matter who's in office, or unless someone wants to, take an axe to it and cut it apart, but it will have to be done publicly. So a couple things. One was early on, the mayor put forward legislation that then came to this body and was approved to create a sheltered market program, which was made possible by the disparity study that was done. And so the sheltered market program allows for the city to, because of the disparity study that says, as an example, advertising, 20% of the businesses that are available are people of color, but only 5% were utilized. Therefore, because a disparity exists, the sheltered market program says that any advertising contract, I can say that contract is only for people of color, or if it showed that only Asian-owned businesses, that there was a disparity, I can say that that contract is only for Asian-owned businesses to apply to. And so this has been a tool that is mandated by the state. State law gives us the ability to do that. We've put a couple of contracts through there as test cases, and they've been successful, and we've gotten it to POC businesses. So that's one thing. That's a state law. We got approval for that. Another key piece of legislation that we got done, Jalivia talked about this, the inclusive quote contract. This was also something that the mayor put forward to the council. This body approved it. A home rule petition, the state approved it as well. What this does is, so right now, Chapter 30B in Mass General Law is what dictates procurement, how we do that at the local level. And there are 3 buckets for people to think about. Under $10,000, a department can choose whoever they want to do any service or give whatever product under $10,000. So no real process except someone identifying someone. If it's between $10,000 and $50,000, you have to identify at least 3 contractors to make the bid available to, and you have to go with the lowest bid. And so even if it's 50 cents, you got to go with whoever is 50 cents less. And then the third bucket is contracts over $50,000. That goes from $50,000 to $20 million, right? And for those contracts, well, you said by one, but I don't know anymore. But for those contracts, they go through an RFP process, a request for proposal. It goes out to different vendors, and it's more subjective. Departments can decide, if it goes to, if it costs more, you have to justify it, but you're not bound by it has to go to the lowest bidder. So, all important context to say that the inclusive quote contract, it allows us to expand that $50,000 to $250,000. Excuse me, not 50, the 10. So to go from 10 to 250 instead of 50,000. The part that matters, first of all, is much of what the city awards already falls in that 10 to 50 category. So we are expanding the pool of contracts that are available for women and minority businesses because the disparity study says they're not getting their due share. So the IQC allows us to lift that cap to 250,000, and all these contracts where, if departments choose, can go through this process of saying, this contract that I would have put out through whatever process can go through this one because we want it to go to a diverse company. But the other piece of it is it's streamlined. So if you're going through the IQC process, you don't have to build out a 70-page RFP. It can be a couple pages long, and, stating what it is that you need. And again, it guarantees that, a diverse company is going to get the contract. So those are a couple of the things we've been doing. I mean, other things we've talked about, the certification piece is really important. Right now, internally, what we're going to begin measuring ourselves on is how many of our certified businesses are getting contracts with the city, because we have to continue to show the value of being certified. Right now, you don't have to be certified to get a contract if you're a diverse company. Some are successful and are not certified. But we want to be able to track because we have to know how to address any gaps that exist. So the certification piece matters. The buying plan matters, as we just talked about. That's been another really important way of making sure that folks are getting access to contracts, because then we find out, to be able to support folks. The comms piece. I will say one other is, this is something that we instituted a couple years ago. So before a contract goes out to bid, an RFP, it has to get approved by the procurement officer, who is our CFO. What we did a couple years ago was to add the Chief of Economic Opportunity and Inclusion to that mix, where before a contract goes out publicly, our office has to sign off on it as well, if it's a contract worth more than $250,000. Again, a lot of our contracts fall into that bucket. And so now what happens is, whenever that comes across my desk or the Director of Supplier Diversity, we reach out to departments to make sure they have a plan for outreach, and that the way that they've set up the review committee for the bids that come in is fair and diverse. And what I mean by that is, we're trying to break away from this model of, if I'm the transportation department, it's only people from transportation that are on the review committee, because it impacts everybody else, right? We've modeled this ourselves. Every contract that we have ever put out there, other departments sit on the review committee that are impacted, and it's helped us choose better companies, and so, or the best bid. So just to say, these are multiple strategies that we've taken. There's no one silver bullet. Right. I've left out a bunch of stuff, but you wanted to get us out here by one, so.
Yeah, and we've been joined by the Vice Chair of the committee, Councilor Pepin. Councilor Pepin, do you have any questions? All right. The Chair recognizes Councilor Pepin. Councilor, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm sorry for being that obstacle between lunch and next hearing.
We're happy to be here.
So, but I did want to make sure I was in here. I was dealing with some unfortunate news this morning, so that's why I was late to the hearing. But I didn't want to miss the opportunity to just express my appreciation for the work that you all do. Your offices have continued to support my office and my district a lot. I want to make sure that this isn't really questions. This is more of like what I want to see continue to happen. I really appreciated the assistance that your office did when there was that displacement concern in Rosendale. You guys stepped up and helped that. I want to see more of that when squares and streets starts to be talked about in my neighborhood, and when businesses just don't know what to do. I want to see more collaboration with our main streets directors. I have 3 of them in my district. There's a brand new one in Rosendale. There's a well-oiled machine in Hyde Park. And there's one that needs some love in Mattapan. And Mattapan specifically is a corridor in my neighborhood, in my district, Mattapan Square specifically, that I want to make sure that they're getting the right resources they need to become a thriving square. Especially with the fact that the Daily Table has left that location. I would love for my community and myself to be part of that conversation to see what goes in there next. I want to make sure that you guys have all the resources you need to do the work. So it could either be here or in the next hearing. I want to know what line item or additional line item might help you make your job easier. Because something that we're proud of in the city of Boston is our small businesses and our economic engine. I just was speaking at a career fair this morning with Meet Boston, and there's a lot of people that were in line because they want to work. So I just want to make sure that you all are set to go, and I'm just proud of the work you all do. So again, not really a question, but more of some statements. So thank you.
No, well, we appreciate that, Councilor. I know they weren't questions, but it's an opportunity for us to address maybe some questions that other folks might have in those topics. First, because Lori Radwin was on earlier, and so, on the displacement piece, I know we were here a few weeks ago to talk about the anti-displacement plan, and just to say that, yes, we continue to be very focused on how we are preventing the displacement of our small businesses, development notwithstanding, because an issue that you have brought up, Councilor, as well as Councilor Braden, Councilor Mejia, a couple others that, all of that notwithstanding, a group that does not have protection against being forced out are small businesses. And, property owners are beginning to raise their rents, and that's not even has anything to do with the property tax conversation. It's just what we see. And so, we continue to work with your offices to identify where there are issues so that we can jump in on a case-by-case basis. Matt, on the Main Streets piece, What I'll note is for Mattapan, yes, it has faced challenges. We'll just note for the record that we are working overtime with this group. Just had a meeting with them last week, and a meeting with them 2 weeks before that. I just had a meeting with Nicole randomly on the street yesterday because she's part of a running group. She's awesome, and was in my neighborhood, and we just started talking on the street. So, but suffice it to say that it's the city, it's the Main Street Board, and it's the Main Streets Foundation that are working to help right-size the ship. And so we'll look forward in the next couple of months for the organization to be up and running. They just approved a job description so that there's a simultaneous effort to get sustained leadership in there as well to move that forward. And then Daily Table, yes, we'll be happy to give your team an update on that. We just got some word back from the team that's working with POA and the owners of the building on what they're looking for. So, we welcome suggestions on, we were just saying with Councilor Worrell, if we know what people want. So if, for instance, people want another grocery store, if they want a Wegmans, if they want, whatever chain is out there, right? We're happy to go chase after them if we're given direction. And then, on the line item piece, I'll just say that I think what we have put in for, which is just stable funding as we got before, is the right way to go. I mean, I think our presentation shows that we have done a lot with a little, and we want to continue working in that way. I will also note that, we really are trying to build our relationships and partnerships with the private sector to get private funding, because the moment that we're in on a national level requires that public and private are working even more closely together, because we cannot rely on the federal government providing the support they've been providing. It's going to put a strain on the city budget, and I don't want to, take from others to move stuff forward. There are, all these, banks and, other entities in the private sector. Everyone said, John Oliver had a whole thing, about, small businesses are the backbone of our community, and how every single person ever, says that. And now we want folks to work with us to make sure that they, that their belief is shown in the pudding. What is it? Proof in the pudding. So just to say, appreciate it, but actually we'd love to work with you on identifying who are folks, companies out there that should also be putting their dollars in the mix here to move this stuff forward.
Absolutely. I already had a lot of those conversations. There's some interest there, so we could definitely touch base offline and what that's about. But, Mr. Chair, that's it for me. I'm just really thankful for the work you all do.
Thank you, Councilor Pepin. And you stirred about 10, no, I'm joking.
I knew it, though.
But just want to thank the whole team, those that are here and those that are not here. Your team and your cabinet is very responsive, and it matters in a very real way to all the businesses that reach out to our office. So thank you for your work. Thank you for your intentionality and your commitment to advancing equity and inclusion here in the city of Boston. It means the world to me. I also want to thank those who came to testify. I want to thank central staff. I want to thank my team. I want to thank my council colleagues. And this hearing on dockets number 0822 through 0830 is adjourned.